The work area of an Excel spreadsheet is not limited to what we see on the screen. Rather, it extends much further. In the rows we see 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5, etc. But if we move along the sheet using the arrow at the bottom, the down arrow, we see that after 20s it continues into the 40s, 50s, etc. We could also move more quickly using page down. We see that we are at 75, 98, 121, 144, etc. We see that there are many rows. Specifically, if we hit page end down arrow, we see what the last row is. The last row is 1 million and something, that is. The work area is truly very big, and it is very unlikely that we would have an application or that we would have so much data that they would come fill it. Even if we put one in each of the rows. It might happen, but, in such unexpected cases, we would have to split the data into two different spreadsheets. But in general, we can say that almost all of the time in real life everything we want to enter is going to fit in a single spreadsheet. This also applies to the columns. In the columns, we have on show from the A to the O. But if we move along them with the right arrow, we see that after the O the alphabet continues, even after the Z letters start to double up. We see that we truly have a considerable number of columns as well. If you click the N plus right arrow, we see the last one. The last one is XFD, and if we counted how many there were, the total number would be 16,000. So with 16,000 columns and 1 million rows, logically the size of the work area is certainly big. In general, this workspace is large enough for us not to be limited by it in our everyday Excel use. It might be that we had a spreadsheet that may be so big that we wanted to focus our attention on two different areas. For example, at the start of the sheet I have some data. I start calculating and ultimately, in row 600, I have some end or interim results, and I want them to be visible in both areas. This is possible with Excel, since above the vertical scroll bar, we have a button that if we find it here and we drag it down, we get a kind of visual partition of what is the spreadsheet. We have not actually split it. What we have done therefore is to split the screen, and we have two different visualizations of the same screen. That is, that if in the lower part we move up, we see that the same cell A1 that we have as the active cell in the upper part is also the active cell in the lower part. Why? Because we are seeing the same sheet. What it now allows us for use to see rows 1 to 11. We could adjust it further from 1 to 9, and the lower part we could move to another area of our spreadsheet that was very far away. We could go, for example, as we said, to 600. We are doing this in the upper area. We would put 1, and here we could move an area very far away. This is possible thanks to this split screen feature utility. Well, what we can do with the rows we can also do with the columns. Here to the right of the horizontal scroll bar we have an equivalent button to this one. This time in the vertical position that we can move. So we're seeing from column A to G in the bottom, left half of the screen. We have the corresponding scroll bar, and on the right of the screen, we could go to the same area. We see that cell A1 is selected, and we see it in both views of the same spreadsheet. But the big advantage that we have now is that in either one of them, we could move very far to the right and see columns that are very far to the right. Then we could have this double view of the same spreadsheet. Well, we could make it complicated a bit more and do a quadruple view, by combining this partition into columns with the partition that we have seen earlier into rows. So we can have up to 4 different areas of the same spreadsheet in direct view on the screen. So we could be working here in rows, here in others, here in some cells, here in others. And we could move around each pair of them, or put ourselves in a certain area of interest of our spreadsheet. This can be helpful when working with spreadsheets, as I said, that are very large with huge amounts of data. To remove this view, what we have to do is to take this scroll bar and move it to its starting position, where we first found it, which is at the top and to the right, and just like that we are back looking at our default spreadsheet view.
That was it for today, students. Today's lesson was very important since the split screen option will come in handy many times in the future.